Good morning. What a marvelous week we've had with Metropolitan Community College's 31st annual Fort Omaha virtual intertribal powwow. Thanks to so many of you who have been with us for virtual programs daily that began on September 19th. The powwow committee recognizes Isabella Aguirre Whitedress, Oglala Su Lakota, who represents this powwow as the reigning princess, and her family who provided support for her in this role over the last year. Thank you to the Whitmore Charitable Trust for providing financial support for this project. Also, the Nebraska Arts Council, a state agency, has supported the Fort Omaha Intertribal Powwow through its matching grants program funded by the Nebraska Legislature, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the Nebraska Cultural Endowment. Visit www.nebraskaartscouncil.org for information on how the Nebraska Arts Council can assist your organization or how you can support the Nebraska Cultural Endowment. Audience members, your microphones and chat with others are turned off, but you may always contact the hosts. Send your questions at any time to moderator Barbara Velasquez. Watch the chat for a link to the online evaluation of today's program. Teresa Foley and Alex Leverin, powwow committee members, will share with you a very good reason to complete the evaluation today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Leverin. I'm with MCC.
And I'm Teresa Foley, and I'm also with MCC.
And we are here to invite you to complete the evaluation after the program is finished for your opportunity to win this beautiful star quilt made by Carrie Reed.
Thank you and good luck.
Thanks, Teresa and Alex, very much. Today's presentation of the host Southern Drum was made possible by much behind the scenes work of Teresa Walker, Winnebago Standing Rock, Fort Omaha Intertribal Powwow Committee member since the celebration's inception in 1992, and retired from Metropolitan Community College. I also want to thank Teresa Foley, Sharon Lee, and Nate Tweedy, who traveled to secure video last Saturday at the Mental Health and Wellness Powwow at Winnebago's Casino, and Donna Wolf, prevention specialist from the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska, who helped to coordinate the permissions for the recording. Today's presentation consists of commentary from O.C. Earth, lead singer from the host Southern Drum, New Breed. Following the video, we will have a Q&A session with Stephen Tamayo, Sichangu Lakota, powwow committee member and local traditional artist. The New Breed singers come from the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska and are from Winnebago, Nebraska. They have been singing together since 2006, practicing and going to different powwows. New Breed has served as host drum at the different celebrations in Winnebago, including the annual harvest celebration, the New Year's Eve sobriety powwow, the Halloween masquerade powwow, the end of the school year honoring the youth powwow, and their highlight of being able to be the host drum at the annual homecoming celebration in Winnebago, a 4-day event. New Breed specializes in singing traditional Ho-Chunk or Winnebago songs, including the green corn dance, the snake dance, the fish dance, the swan dance, the pipe dance, and many family songs that have been passed down for years. They also have a number of original songs that the members of the group have composed and will have recordings available soon. Let's watch New Breed and O.C. Earth.
My name is Oscar Earth. I'm from the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska. I guess I learned about, kind of always knew about the arena and the ways, but I really didn't get into singing until I was about 13, 14 years old. And me and a couple of my friends, we, really got into it. So one of their dads would sit down and sing with us once in a while, not too often, but so we got to participate that way. And then as I grew older, there was another gentleman by the name of Matthew Cleveland Sr. that kind of took me to powwows and, you know, showed me our traditional Ho-Chunk songs. Once in a while we would practice at his house with his sons and me, and so that's kind of how we got into singing the traditional songs. And then as time grew on, you know, the evolution, we want to start our own group and, you know, make our own songs, and while still singing the traditional songs that we have on our reservation.
To add on to that, how, you know, again, I've always known about what we call today the Helushka Circle and Helushka Arena. And I started dancing at an early age. And as I grew older, you know, I wanted to be around the drum, started singing. And as respects and honors to Mr. Earth, you know, OC, his teacher, my choka, Matthew Cleveland Sr., and then, you know, and on down to me, you know, with all due respect, you know, and had a question earlier, you know, are we brothers, you know, and yeah, we're brothers, you know, and OC, he taught me how to sing at an early age, I believe probably about 7 years old, taught me how to sing, and beliefs about the drum, and the healing of it, what it entails. And as Oscar said, you know, we also have our, you know, our family songs, Winnebago family songs, and then the Newbury Drum Group, you know, we also have our songs that we make, you know, that we also want to share, you know, a part of us, of who we are, how we, you know, how we feel, you know. Want to make the people feel better, feel good.
Growing up in Winnebago, I guess we kind of have our own style of singing and our own songs that come from our reservations, you know. I guess back in the 1860s and before then, a lot of them songs we still sing today. So, you know, we want to carry those on for the younger generation, and that's really what sparked our interest, was just that there wasn't too many people singing them at the time. So, you know, we took an interest up in wanting to learn our traditional songs on top of, you know, the other songs we have, specialty songs we have. Well, I guess growing up, you know, I might have Degas, they all danced and they all sang, and my mom's brothers, you know, Mr. Ed Logan Sr. and Herman Logan was their names. Wanagita, with their, they always, you know, grew up. So when younger, I wasn't really participating in the arena, dancing or singing, but I was around and I knew that they all did those kind of things. So as I got older, you know, they would help us out, you know, try to get us in that arena as much as they could. Those are a couple of more of my big influences on this this Hedushka way, or this Hedushka Moshka, this way of life that we have.
Oh, to add to that, yeah, you know, I was thinking on the names that came to my mind was, with all, you know, thinking about their spirits today, even during and along his time, I choke my grandfather, Matthew Cleveland Sr., along his time, you know, and with all the respects, you know, we think of the word archives today as Louis Snow Sr., Wanagita, and Charlie Sharpback, Wanagita. You know, we're thinking of years such as 1940s, 1950s, Winnebago, Nebraska. You know, and during those times, you know, my choka Matthew Cleveland Sr., he sat with them, around them at the drum, singing the family songs. And again, as Mr. Earth said, that, you know, traditional dances that we have that's been with us for probably the turn of maybe the Ice Age times. You know, we have the snake dance, swan dance, bean dance, green corn dance. And so those teachings from them carried on towards, again, my choka Matthew Cleveland Sr., Wanagita. And when we say Wanagita, we're talking about their spirit that passed on to everlasting life. And then, Mr. Earth, he learned from, one of the greatest teachers we could probably think about right offhand is Mr. Cleveland. And then, again, I'll say that again, on down to me, there's strict teachings, there's strict teachings, but they're good teachings. So, then today we show them how we got nephews, we got sons that are sitting around the drum, and then they get to partake in those teachings and carry them on.
I guess we came together, really when it was, I met this, young man right here when he was about maybe 6, 7 years old, and he had this, I don't know, look in his eye that, he really wanted to learn some things. So basically we just started singing all the time together, me and him, and then as my sons got older, it was me, him, and my other son. When he was about 3, 4 years old, and he was probably, I don't know, 10, 11 or something, and that's really when it came to be, and it just grew from there. We started composing our own songs, and then, it came to the point where we were approached to be host drum at Winnebago powwow, our homecoming celebration we have there, which, to us was a really big deal to be sitting out there and to actually be one of the host drums for our, homecoming celebration we have. So it just kind of snowballed from there, and, here we are today. Have our own songs, and our sons are getting older. So we just want to keep moving forward, continue on, and hopefully continue these traditions that we have. Well, it was really a nice, huge honor for us to be asked to be host drum down at the Metro Community College powwow. We've been down there before. We set up a few times. We sang with few other host drums that went down there before. But, to get our chance, I guess you would say, we really appreciate it. Thankful that we have an opportunity to sing and share our music with, a bigger audience, more people.
I want to probably go back towards, springtime. When we got the word, and, on behalf of the, Newbury Drum Group, and, it's a big, as Mr. Earth said, a big opportunity and a blessing to be, a part of Newbury Singers, and, for, and a humble experience, our name to be out there like that, and as Mr. Earth said, we enjoy singing, we enjoy making the people feel good, and we enjoy the healing of the drum, what it has to offer, and the teachings that go with it, and we just like to sing, and then along with that, and then we like to show our nephews and our sons, something good. And then, so along with that, we get to share that experience with our sons and, and our nephews. And then on top of that, the Metro, powwow celebration, and then somewhere along the way, we got word that it wasn't going to take place, and we was, really bummed out about that, But I was thinking, I guess a little hint, maybe hopefully it could be a same thought, and maybe the same motions could carry on to next year, or maybe a different date or time. We're willing, we're ready, we want to, we need, and so we're excited, still excited, so, but bummed out.
Yeah.
I guess there's a difference in the singing styles we have on the powwow circuit or the powwow arena. Well, usually, really, we like to say there's another, because we have our own style, our whole chunk, but there's like a northern and a southern style. And the northern style is kind of the northern plains tribes, all from, the north on up, they sing at a little bit higher octave, I guess you would call it, or higher level than what you would hear from a southern group, mostly coming from, you know, the southern plains or down south. You would hear more of a lower style with a lot more bass to the singing, I guess, so you would hear this stuff. But back home where we're from, Winnebago, it's kind of in between, I guess. We're not really northern, we're not really southern. We're kind of have our own style, we like to say, but you know, we're starting to sing southern style right now is what we're doing. So, like, again, we're honored to be the southern host drum. I guess the name New Breed comes from the thinking of I guess that's, you know, the I don't know if we want to say the generation, or like we're trying to spark a new interest in our way of life and our songs and our language. You know, we want it because we're both language teachers, so we're trying to, you know, revitalize the language through, you know, our music also, and you know, hopefully we're trying to start a new breed of ho chunks, I guess you would say. I mean, that's kind of the thinking behind it. So, because it's not going to stop with us, you know, once we're old men and gone, we're hoping this new breed is still going with, you know, our sons and nephews and whoever else they can pick up along the way, I guess, is kind of the thought behind new breed.
All in abundance, new breed, you know, we, again, as Mr. Earth said, you know, we're language instructors, and I want to add to that is ho chunk. You know, ho chunk, it means people of the parent speech, or sacred language. Ho, H-O, is voice, and then waka and chunk, or that chunk part falls in kind of like a branch off of, you know, a sacred. So ho chunk. So, you know, that's a big part of the new breed singers, you know, when we will represent ourselves, you know, and you know, not there, but where we come from, Winnebago, Nebraska, and you'll probably see that a lot. Ho chunk kani shoch, and that's it means Missouri River or clumpy water. So a long time ago, we used to reside over there by the river. So all in all, I just want to inform each and every one of you that is on the receiving end of us, and just want to say thank you again. So we want to say, we say, Pina Gigi, Wa Eanapui, and Jegon Kira, you know, like that, you know, kind of saying, if possible, kind of, you know, that's all we have to say, you know, so.
Thank you to New Breed. Beautiful, beautiful music. Stephen Tamayo is a traditional Sichangu Lakota artist whose family originates from the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota. Many of you may be familiar with Mr. Tamayo. He is a veteran, having served in the 101st Airborne Division, returned to Omaha and studied the traditional arts of Omahan people under the renowned elder Howard Wolf. Wolf instilled in Tamayo a deep appreciation and knowledge of Omahan art and culture. He learned the importance of traditional materials, construction, and the history surrounding native artifacts and regalia. He further augmented his understanding of Northern Plains art by moving to the Rosebud Reservation, and he earned his BFA from Santa Gleska University in 2011. He also developed and taught a traditional arts program there. We're delighted that Steve moved back to Omaha, and he enhances the lives of many people through his teachings. He's the 2014 Nebraska Arts Council Governor's Heritage Art Award for Excellence in Cultural Artistic Expression. He and Paul Highhorse won the Omaha Entertainment and Arts Award in 2015 for the best two-person exhibition. He's exhibited at the National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C., et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he has created buffalo robes for Willie Nelson and Neil Young, and a teepee was offered to President Obama from Bold, Nebraska that Steve worked on. So besides that, Steve really understands the role of a drum, and that's why we have him here so you can ask questions. And we have some that have come in already. Steve, could you start with explain why it's so important for the singers to recognize the elders and teachers who taught them the songs, and why it's such a big deal for the younger children to join and learn to sing? And that has been requested specifically for Metro's class of Native American Studies.
That's a really good question. And so I'd like to, first of all, say good morning to each and every one of you. And so understanding that, you know, there are specific teachings pertaining to all of the 1,000+ tribal nations within the United States. And so some tribal nations actually have clans. And so me being a Lakota, we don't have clans, we have bands. And so we have very specific communities in which a lot of these teachings are incorporated. But for those of our tribal members that have clans, there are a deeper understanding and complexity to our music, because some of the clans are, their responsibility and protocol within that clanship is to understand how to create the songs. And so parts of those clans are also the ones that have that right and responsibility to make the drums and make the drumsticks. And so this is totally different across the board. And so depending on what tribal nation you come from, this will include the more complexity of our music. And so, you know, our drums, we have very specific drums for specific reasons. And so, you know, New Breed, they're singing on that big drum. And so most of the tribal nations in the US, we call that drum grandpa. And we're always told that, you know, you should always have respect and take care of that drum. And so if you respect that drum, you know, it'll take care of you in a really good way. And so that's the importance of understanding the rights and responsibilities of that drum. But first and foremost, you have to understand the complexity of the drum keeper. And so every drum, they have an assigned person to be the keeper of that drum. And understanding that, they have to live a sober life. They have to be responsible. They have to understand all of the songs that are entailed in our way of life. And so to add to this, the songs that New Breed was singing, those are powwow songs. Those are celebration songs. For Indigenous people, we have so many songs, and the responsibility of our lead singer is they have to understand the specific songs that exist, like our grand entry, and then our flag songs, because each tribal nation has their own specific flag song. And when was that song created? And so for our head singers, that's their responsibility to retain that information and pass it on to all of the singers that are sitting at their drum. And just like all of our war songs, our victory songs, from every major old conflict of yesteryear before pre-contact, there were songs created because of exploits and deeds and acts of valor. And then to add to that, one thing about all Indigenous people, and the men, the males and the females, is we have always joined the military in the highest numbers throughout the nation. And so we've always participated within every major conflict in the US, with the American Revolution, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korea, every major conflict. And so one thing about our language is, it was against the law to speak our language in 1890. And so we were punished, we were fined, we were imprisoned. But then the United States government utilized our language as a tool, as a weapon. And so this is why the code talkers took and had a huge role in the victories of a lot of our major conflicts. And nobody talks about the Choctaw Cherokees of the World War I, because we're always acknowledging a lot of our Dene speakers in the code talkers of World War II. But once again, we have always, utilized our language as a weapon, as a tool. And so I just wanted to say that much just to open up our questions and answers. So thank you.
How can audience members honor the singers and the drum at a powwow?
Our drums are specifically gifted to the males, to the men. And so in the Omaha area, women aren't allowed to touch our drums. And so that's just understanding of our protocol. And so the women have always harmonized with our drums. And so in the Lakota language, we identify them as Wichaglaka. And they are the ones that beautify, that harmonize those melodies. And so that's the importance of the roles and responsibilities of our females. And so just understanding that, there are certain songs that, you can record. And so, but there are specific songs that we can't record. And so the difficulties there is during some of our songs, we're acknowledging our babies, we're acknowledging their accomplishments in life. And so understanding that, we have specific rights as Indigenous people, and a lot of them pertain to that drum and those songs of ceremonies, of rituals. And so, for us, that documentation is being there and listening to these songs and understanding, like our spirit names. And so in the mainstream, it's common for people to go and select and pick their names. But for us, our names are gifted to us because of attributes and characteristics that we want to instill upon a lot of our females. And that's the importance of that. A lot of our old names, we're reviving them because we never ever want to forget our ancestors and our relatives of the past, because we're utilizing these names in the present, and we need to maintain and identify our names for many future generations. And so understanding that, listen to our MCs, because they will notify you when you can document, when you can film and tape, but just be mindful of our ceremonies and be respectful of that. that some of our ceremonies should never be documented, never be photographed or filmed. And so once again, our MCs, that's their job to acknowledge and to explain and to tell the people, when it's appropriate to document. And so, but things like that, never go up, never touch our drums, never touch individuals. And so, our well-being, our hair, our regalia, this is something that is very special and that everybody should have the most utmost respect for. And so in the fall time, it's kind of a dilemma that a lot of our relatives face, because in a couple weeks they'll be acknowledging an individual for landing and stepping foot on the country which he never discovered in the first place. But then here comes that next Halloween, and I call this the trifecta, because that next holiday is Halloween, where people dress up as Indians or Asians or Mexicans, and it's not about that. We're not costumes. And so, we shouldn't be portrayed as such. And so have respect in that ways. And then the last one is Thanksgiving, because once again, the individuals that our relatives, our ancestors saved a long time ago, AKA known as the Pilgrims, because of that holiday, we were the ones that actually saved the people from starvation a long time ago. And so for us, it's not a celebration of life. It's a celebration of mourning of a lot of our ancestors. And so, once again, the complexities of our songs, they're about good times, and they explain the exploits and deeds carried out by individuals. But we also have memorial songs. We have very specific songs for our funerals, for our hand games, for our, social dances. And so the complexity is understanding when and what is appropriate. Because once again, there's 1,000 tribes. There's 1,000 different languages. And so we incorporate our languages, but sometimes some of our songs, they don't have words. They're vocables. They are the sounds that are created in the natural world because of the kanze, because of tate, that wind. And so this is how important that is. And so, our songs are very special to us. But what's really unique and special about that chanchega, that's what and how we identify a drum. That big drum, that hand drum, that double-sided ceremonial drum. The drum is the oldest known instrument known to man all over the world. And the reason why is because that is the heartbeat of the people. And sometimes it has that slow beat of that slow procession of us coming in. And sometimes they speed that up for our grand entries. Sometimes that beat, it just takes off and it's really fast because of the style of dance that we're utilizing that drum beat for, like our men's fancy. Or is it utilized for our men and women's traditional? Because sometimes it's a nice soft beat in which it allows a lot of our females to dance very respectfully back on Mother Earth. But also, once again, it explains the stories of our existence, of our fights, of war, of hunts. And so it's about reenactment. That's what powwows have always been about, is we're reenacting the exploits and deeds carried out outside of that village, whether that be in hunts, raids, or war, or times of celebration. And then once again, we have those special songs that we utilize to gift our next generation their spirit names, or the names that they're changing because of deeds carried out once again. So thanks for the questions.
Thank you, Steve. I'd like to thank Eric, who is very impressed. He said it was the first time that he had been experiencing a drum, and he thought it was wonderful. So a big shout out to New Breed for sharing your songs with us. Stephen, in that video, it appeared that the drum was in the middle of the celebration. How is the placement of the drum determined?
You know, we're lucky to witness the placement of the drums, because we started this celebration, you know, decades ago here at Fort Omaha. And so understanding that the right and responsibility of our host Southern drum is to be centered into the middle of that circle. And so a lot of our Southern drums, just like our Ho-Chunk relatives, New Breed, just like our host drum here in Omaha, Nebraska, which is usually Young Bucks. That is their seat of honor, we say. And so they're placed in the center because they are the center of the people. We cannot have that celebration without that drum, without those singers, without that knowledge. And so, you know, anybody can go and dance and celebrate, you know, in street clothes, in regalia. But how can you dance without that drum? And so for our host Northern, you know, we always set them up by the MC closest, because they have to be aware of what's going on in that circle. And so once again, you know, our host Northern, host Southern drums, you know, they're usually called upon because of their knowledge, their cultural knowledge of songs. And so, you know, I know some of these drum groups and they just know hundreds and hundreds of songs. It's amazing because, you know, you don't have one singer. You have a minimum of 5, sometimes up to 15. And so that's what's special about that. And so, you know, I was at a celebration on the Rosebud Reservation last month, and we piggybacked. We had 2 drums going because we had an Iron Woman special. And these songs just kept going back and forth for our women's jingle and fancy. And so they started singing these songs, and they sang like 52 songs straight. And there's this young lady from Canada, and she was the winner. She didn't stop for 52 songs straight. It was unbelievable. And so understanding that, not only to have that stamina of all of these young people out there dancing, but to have that cultural knowledge of those singers to sing each, you know, almost 26 songs back after, you know, they call them, you know, to sing it, to piggyback them. And so it was just amazing to witness and to see. And so, you know, the responsibilities of our host Southern and host Northern, you know, it takes a powwow committee to select and to pick. But what's so important about Fort Omaha's intertribal celebration powwow committee is, you know, it's quite diverse of many different nations. And so that's what I love about our intertribal celebration here, is because of how inclusive we actually are here as a powwow committee. And so, you know, we are on the lands of the Umaha people. But in the city of Omaha, there's 110 different tribes that reside here in the city alone, not including the state. But be mindful of the 4 tribes that are headquartered here, of the Umaha, of the Oshni Ponca, of the Ho-Chunk Winnebago, and our Isanti Madeo Wakantawa people. Those are the 4 tribes in Nebraska. And so, you know, Omaha's Ho-Chunk Poncas, you know, as well as our Dakota relatives, all of their songs are very unique to who they are. And so that's what's so special about that. So thank you.
Stephen, can you help our audience members distinguish between Northern and Southern singing? I know that New Breed shared that they don't really consider themselves one or the other. They say they are Winnebago singers, right? But typically when we're looking for Northern or Southern and you're coming into a powwow, how, without somebody telling you, how would you distinguish?
You know, the difference between Northern and Southern drums is that lower pitch. And so our Southern singers, they sing from their gut and they just bust it out, you know, but it's a deeper tone. And so here comes our northern drums. And in our songs, even in that new breed song, you could hear in the background that somebody, one of their singers was screeching, because we're acknowledging what we call the Zingtala Oriate, the bird nation relatives, because our birds, our eagles specific, they're our messengers. And so when we utilize our eagle feathers, these items are tools, they're instruments that we utilize in prayer and ceremony, and we have the utmost respect. But long ago, my first teacher, once again, was Howard, and he always stated that, there's an emphasis of these items being sacred. And if they're so sacred, they should be at home, locked up, so that that negativity, that animosity, that jealousy that exists everywhere is not incorporated, it's not instilled upon these items of sacredness. And so for us, we identify what's truly sacred, and it's the water, it's the food, it's the continuation of life of our babies, but it's also our voice. And so, our host Southern drum, once again, because of that lower pitch, this is more of a unique style that's very typical of our host Southern drums. And, but there are some northern drums like, Ichiawi Chasha or Ka. These are the common man singers of Earl Bullhead. And he sings that way. He has a lower tone, but most of our northern drums, once again, they have a higher pitch. And in there, they'll mimic the sounds of our eagles, of our hawks, of our owls. And so once again, it's just enhancing these songs because of that altitude and that high pitch. And so that's usually the most typical. But, once again, they're in our Southern drums, they add extra drum beats that Northern drums don't add. So, it's always good to be familiar with both Northern and Southern if you're a dancer, because once again, whatever that rotation of those drums, that song that you get is the song that you get, and be mindful of that. So if you're going to be a dancer in today's world for competition in this contemporary way of life, then you have to understand both Northern and Southern styles, because it will give you that advantage in that circle. Trust me. And so, one of my grandsons, he sings Southern and Northern, and that has really helped him over the years, because once again, he started out singing with Young Bucks and took off with their own drum. And so that's how important it is to understand both our Northern and Southern styles.
Excellent. Thank you for helping us with that. Steve, you've been watching and learning for many years. And we saw on the drum, and also OC's interview talked about his children joining the drum. How does this singer develop? What have you seen? How early do they start?
When you go to our celebrations, you'll see a lot of the dads, and they'll have their baby on their lap, and then their ichabu, their stick, just going at it. And so what they're doing is they're making that drum and that heartbeat and those honor beats, they're making it familiar. They're familiarizing that sound, with our babies, so that they're not scared. And so it doesn't startle them. And so a lot of times the moms will stand and hold the baby in the back just so they get used to that. And so you'll see a lot of babies by our drums, that they're just sleeping, and some people think, that drum beat, is too loud and this and that, but it's just how we're raised today. And so once you become familiar with that drum beat and that noise level, it's kind of soothing, because once again, understanding the different beats will determine what kind of song that is specific. And so, here in Omaha, October 5th, for all of our kids, in the Omaha area, our youth, we're going to have a drum circle once again. October 5th at Field Club from 6 to 8, we're going to have an open drum session for all of our Native youth in the Omaha area, because we are going to explain the rights, the responsibilities, the protocol, and then after our season, hopefully towards the end, before the school session is out, hopefully we can find funding to make our hand drums and our drumsticks with this new group of youth singers, because we want that heartbeat. We want that drum and that drum style in our songs, you know, to still exist. Because once again, you know, our language was outlawed. We weren't allowed to sing our songs, but today we can openly share that. And so this is about revitalization. This is about bringing back a lot of these specific teachings. And so all of our singers out there, all of our adults, our Northern and Southern, you're more than welcome to attend our drum sessions. And so it's sponsored by Bluebird Cultural Initiative. It's also sponsored by the Native Indigenous Center of Education within the Omaha Public Schools. And this is why we're going to be at Field Club Elementary, 6 to 8, starting October 5th, every other week. And just be mindful of the OPS calendar schedule of holidays, snow days, and you name it. So we want to, once again, encourage all of our youth in the Omaha community to openly come down and be a part of our drum circle once again, because last year it was very successful. And so hopefully we can continue this once again with OPS. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's just, we're coming to closing here, but just for our audience to get the life of a singer, how often do they practice? Do they practice? How did they end up doing their thing? How far do they travel? What if they're in contests? What kind of money are they making? Those are some of the just to give us a picture of what's the life like for a drum that is active.
So first of all, you have to understand the value of that drum. And so our smaller hand drums, they start at $100, go up to $200. Our ceremonial drums that have a hide on both sides, we use them in our ceremonies of our Native American church, as well as our inipi, our inihagapi, our sweat lodge ceremonies. And this is why they're two-sided, because we set them in our lap and then we utilize that drum beat inside of that womb, inside of that sweat lodge. And then when you get to our big powwow drums, those start at $500 and go up to $2,000. So think about the value of our drums first and foremost. Another thing is, you know, we're utilizing our elk and our buffalo rawhide when we make our drums. We don't use deer hide because the deer is really thin and it has a really high pitch. But also, just like our skin, the temperature outside will affect that drum. And so if it's nice and cool, the skin relaxes and it becomes flat. So then we're going to have to heat it up. And so you'll see at our celebrations that a lot of times we'll have a big fire behind our MC stands just to heat up that drum and tighten up that skin once again. Some drums will have a hole drilled inside of that drum keg and they'll put a hair dryer in there. And then that heat from the hair dryer, once again, will help tighten that drum to get that deep tone. And so first and foremost, you have to understand the value of your drum. And a lot of our young singers, they don't have access to the drum frames, to the rawhide, to the elk and the buffalo. And so this is why our drum circles are so important. And so that we have to find funding to provide these materials for that next generation to understand, but make their own drum. Because we're not there as the adults, we're there to help and instruct and showcase and show how this technique of drum construction is and has always been done. So once again, all you drum makers out there, if you can help us, because I plan on having 20 to 30 youth in our Omaha area. And so stay tuned for that, because I know it's going to be successful this year. And so once again, you know, it's about commitment. It's about perseverance. And so here, you know, we used to have many celebrations, but because of COVID, you know, a lot of our celebrations in the Omaha area haven't taken place in years. And so my boys, just like young bucks, you know, they have to travel outside. But once again, we have the 4 nations headquartered in Nebraska, and they have their celebrations. But every weekend there is a powwow. There's a celebration somewhere going on somewhere in the United States. And so you have to have that reliable vehicle, because one thing about this way of life is it's not guaranteed. We do have drum contests. Sometimes we'll have 30, 40, $50,000 in drum contest money. But then you're going to have 20 to 40 to 50, 60 drums going after that prize money. And there might only be 5 places. So once again, it's the gamble, it's the expertise, it's your crew, they call it, of how knowledgeable you are. Because not only are you judged on your drum style, but how high your sticks go, how clean is your area, how do you conduct yourself and your whole drum that whole weekend. And so there's a lot of rights, responsibilities, and protocol once again instilled and incorporated. So, you know, to be on that trail, it takes many, many years, trust me, because you have to learn these songs first and foremost. And so when you go into a powwow setting and you set up that drum, you better know at least 30 songs to begin with.
Thank you, Steve. I think you've given us a really good good introduction for those who knew nothing. And I'm sure for those who knew, you've added information about the role of the drum in traditional ceremonies. And we're really, really thankful. Do you have any final comments you'd like to share with our audience today, Steve?
You know, once again, there's a lot of non-natives who have drums, and that's fine with me, because once again, everybody has utilized that drum. But be mindful when you go to our celebrations, and be respectful of protocol, that only the males are allowed to touch that drum. And so just respect that way. And if you can't do that, then maybe our celebrations isn't the place that you should be. And so our gatherings are about, once again, reconnecting to our self-identity, our self-awareness. And so once again, you know, our songs are our songs. There are 1,000 tribes. Be mindful and respectful of our way, first and foremost. And if you want to have your drum and chant and this and that, then just stay at home with your drum, and we're fine with that. And so I say that in the utmost respectful way, trust me. And so that is the heartbeat of the people. I know that, I understand that. And so, but this is just how they are here. This is how we are here. And so, you know, the restrictions that have been placed upon us, it's been a struggle for us to maintain our identity, and just be aware of the struggles of the atrocities committed against the indigenous people. Once again, I cannot thank Barbara Velasquez and Teresa Foley for, you know, always standing up, always being a part and pulling us together somehow, some way. And to the powwow committee for your commitment, for your perseverance, to understanding how important this is. I cannot thank you enough, because as a powwow committee, we're not paid. This is volunteered, because we want to bring the best celebration to Omaha that we can. And so for all of you powwow committee members, I can't thank you enough. And for Wendell Birdhead for bringing the idea of bringing this powwow, this celebration to life here at Fort Omaha because this place was a bad place. And we flipped the switch because when the university took over in the mid 1970s, they turned this bad place into a good place. 30 plus years ago, we started this intertribal celebration, which continues today and will continue into the future. So the last thing I want to share is for all Indigenous people, we never say goodbye. We say "Toksha ke wa chiankikte," and this is until we meet again. So hopefully I will meet you down the road somewhere, someplace at our celebrations, our doings. And so be safe, cover up, wash your hands, and happy, let's get over this pandemic time. So once again, thank you once again for inviting me down here for Metropolitan Community College. I want to say Pilami Apalo. Thank you very much. That's it.
Audience, join me in thanking Stephen Tamayo. He stepped in at the last hour so that you, our audience members, could ask questions and further explore the significance of the drum in Native traditions. Thank you so much again to Teresa Walker, who made it possible for us to engage with the New Breed drum and OC Earth. Thank you to New Breed. Thank you to the Winnebago tribe in Nebraska for allowing us to record at their wellness powwow last Saturday. All of these actions symbolize to me the collaborations and willingness to help shown by so many in our Native community and beyond over the 31 years of the Fort Omaha Intertribal Powwow. Thank you to Steve, to Teresa, and so many others that have enriched the lives of thousands and thousands since this celebration was established in 1992. And yes, of course, we all look forward to seeing everybody in person in the future. Audience members, again, thank you for joining us. We're nearing the end of a very busy and rich week of virtual programming. Your involvement through questions, follow-up emails, and dedicated daily participation is so appreciated and has made this time very special. And this program, like most of the others, will be available for future on-demand public viewing. Watch mccneb.edu/powwow-schedule for a posting in about 2 weeks. Please put up the evaluation slide. We have it there good, and in your chat, you will also see that link that you could click on. We want your feedback. And remember, Alex and Teresa told us that if you complete that evaluation, I will leave it open until the 30th. But if you want to be considered in the Star Quilt drawing, you need to complete that evaluation today. Because tomorrow, after the Princess Contest, we will announce the winner of the Star Quilt. So we hope you can do that. And then register today if you have not already for tonight's program. Our next slide. We have a performance by a very renowned company, the Woodland Native American Dance Company. That will be a premiere performance for this powwow. We will have question and answer by their founder, Michelle Reed. And we're really excited to have you join us tonight. Because of the stature of this company, we are not allowed to keep a recording for the future. So please try to commit yourself to being there at 6:30 p.m. tonight. And the registration link is also in the chat. Looking forward to seeing you tonight at 6:30. Bye, everybody.